Well then, welcome to part 16 of the CB750 restoration. You can see all this stuff up here is all sorted. So I hope you enjoy. Right, so here's the frame for our 750. Terribly dirty, but it's just dust. It's a powder coated item, of course. The last time you saw that was in my bed. Couldn't put it in there now. Loads of boxes of 750 stuff. That's all the top end of the engine. By the time you see this video, the engine will be together. That's just sitting up there. In the box behind it, the Narataki one, there is swing arm, a lot of powder coated stuff in there, and the alternator and that sort of thing. Bits and pieces in here with instrumentation and so forth. And these boxes here. Now I've got to go through all this stuff and figure what I want to keep and what I want to throw out, and also what's relevant to the build. Whoops, I've forgotten something. I've forgotten my tea, which is 3 parts cold. Anyway, rear guard, very, very usable. Now, the issue is this. If we stick this in vinegar and soak it, it's going to affect the chrome. So we're not going to do that. We're going to wire wheel all that off. I might use a bit of Part16, the silver stuff, to redo under there. Put any grommets in for the taillight loom. But that is a very, very healthy looking kit. It can be cleaned up. It's going to look really, really good. Of course, the front is the same deal. It's good. It's in good nick. It would be stupid to throw it out or try and replace it for that matter. Now we've got cables. Now we've kept these. These are the throttle cables. One of them is... both of them are knackered. One of them was rusted inside. I think it was this one. This one's all cracked and rusty, but important to keep this sort of stuff until we have suitable replacements we can put on the bike. So we can keep this. We need the triple tree because we're going to put an all balls bearing kit in and knock that one off. So we need to keep that. And there's also fasteners on here which I want to get replated. Now I didn't get anything replated that was structural last time. So I want to go through all this stuff and replate them. And the reason I didn't was because of hydrogen embrittlement, but I reckon if they're heat treated, they'll be right. So that's just going to be painted in a satin black. And I also need a fork tube for this bike. If anyone knows where I can get one, please let me know, because I don't want to buy a new pair, but if I do have to, then I do have to. So it's just a matter of going through all this stuff here. Coil brackets. Brake light switch. All this stuff's reusable. I'm not going to change it. The brake light switch, when you get them on genuine ones, like I put on Dave's, to be frank, I just wasn't happy with the quality of it. I think the original Honda kit's going to be better, although I will plate that spring. Now that's quite thin. That's about as thin as you want to go with electroplating. And this sort of thing too, which is all rusty. So, look, I reckon we're going to pay another visit to the platers. Another thing I'm going to need, this is the front brake line. And it's got a certification number on it, somewhere along here, which is the right one for the engineer in Australia. This is a US bike. This is completely dried out and chalky, so I don't want to use it. But if anyone knows, again, if there's one around, then please let me know. And of course, this stuff's in a beautiful condition. Some of the electrical kit. So, going to go through all this. I don't know what some of this stuff is. Head lamp, socket, rear shocker bolts, you name it, it's here. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to sort through all this. That horn's in fabulous condition, isn't it? I'll put that back on the way it is. Now, one thing I do need to do is take these guys out, those shocks, for the back. And I want to order a new set sooner than later. In fact, tomorrow I'll order, my Patreon funding goes in tomorrow. And so that'll pay for new shockers, new swing arm bushes, and the little eyelet bushes in the swing arm as well. So that can all be put onto the frame. But it can't be put on until the engine's in. So we're just going to keep going through all this stuff and working out what we want to keep and what we don't, or what we need to replace. Okay, let us talk. I've been going through all the bits and pieces that I've got and deciding what to do. Another huge list of plating I've sent off. Now this stuff was the stuff I wasn't going to get plated, but I've decided to. I've changed my mind. Heat treat it to avoid hydrogen embrittlement, that sort of thing, and it's going to be good because I don't want to put a bike together that looks new and have dirty old fasteners. Now, a couple of things. Starter motor. We can pull it apart and have a look. I'm going to run some voltage through it, and if it's nice and free, and it certainly appears to be, and doesn't make any funny noises, I'm not going to bother. I'll just wipe it down and stick it back in. So we'll put that to a side for a moment. What have we got? This thing here, alternator cover. I've taken the alternator out of it. It's sitting over yonder, and I'll show you that after. This needs to be all cleaned up. It's pretty grungy in there, but all this looks fairly renewable, or at least we can get it back looking good, like this. But it's really, really pitted and pretty horrible down there. So it's only very thin. I don't want to take much material off it, so I'd sooner have that a bit, like not perfect, if you know what I mean, rather than thinning it out too much. So we'll do that later. I'm not worried about it for now. This thing's a bit of a hassle though. This is the chain tensioner. Now, this is C solid. I've taken the bolt out. There's a small hole at the back which would be to displace air as this thing sort of goes in and out. Where's a rag? I might soak it in a bucket with some oil and fuel together, or a bit of tranny fluid, whatever, thinned out, to try and free that up. Now, what I'm tipping with this, we've got an alloy case, and we've got a steel, would be hardened steel plunger. That's a round plunger with a flat section machined into it for that bolt to hang on to, so I can only go that way. But this thing, I hit it with penetrating oil last night, not done a thing. So we're going to have to soak that, and we need that reasonably soon. It's foreseeable that small vent hole there would have let moisture in, and being two different materials, that could well have some corrosion in there which is holding it back. I'm going to throw that in there for now. Okay. Now we get to these. These are O-rings. No kidding, Sherlock, he says, but I want to talk about them. The oil lines only had one Viton seal. This is a Viton seal, that brownie colour. Really great for heat and that sort of thing. The original one's here, of course, which looks like a nitrile seal. And we've got one new one in to the inner line, and we had to use the old one on the outer. I can't get to it, it's sitting in this wooden cradle, so that has to come later when I can replace it. So I've got two of those, and we're all good. This one, on the other hand, goes on top of the, that was off the bottom of the, on the casing where the barrels go on, and it's still very soft. It's a silicone seal, and it's quite flat, so we can't use that. And I've got two Viton ones for that, for the cylinder head as well, which need to go on, as well as a whole raft of other hardware for putting the head on, which is here. And we have to soak all this, wash it all up, and make it look all hunky-dory before we go sticking the head on. And of course you can see all these bits and pieces look pretty grungy, so I'm going to throw them in some thinner. That is thinner, it smells like thinner anyway. I'll wash them all up, and that way they're clean. So as far as this tension is concerned, I'm just going to get some engine oil, chuck it in like that, and some two-stroke fuel, only two-stroke because I've got it here, and hopefully it works its way in and frees up that horrible seized part. It just has to soak for a while. Rightio, we've got washers, nuts, bolts, and these little guys here which have broad O-rings around them that go between the head and the barrels. These are all bright because they were inside the valve cover. These ones are the ones outside the valve cover which have some corrosion on them, or at least they're not corroded so much as they're dull. They've still got a good surface there. I might actually mount them inside the cam box so we can have the fresh stuff on the outside because it's restored, or it is restored. I didn't have them plated. I decided not to, and I don't know why. I think I might have just forgotten about them. Jury's out on stuff like this. You can get stuff plated. You don't have to get it plated if you don't want to. It does look good. There's a few things with plating. Jason on the Fairlane Restoration has hand buffed every nut and bolt in the car to secure a good finish. You'll get a good finish anyway. I mean, if you hand stuff in that's really corroded, then the corrosion will show as pitting on the part. But even normal dirty stuff, their acid baths get rid of all the dirt anyway. So I mean, I never bother cleaning stuff. So it really isn't much of a muchness. If you want to do that sort of stuff, you can. Some things, though, are fundamentally wrong to do, and I'm watching one guy doing a small four-cylinder engine, and he's got the whole thing in bits, and then he's reusing his bearings and rings. That is a no-no from every school of thought, and the reason for that is, and I've been caught like this as well, that they can shale, even in good condition. Bearings can be compromised in terms of their strength if the engine's been sitting around for 30-odd years and not used. And I've been caught twice. And that first restoration, 2012, with the Wolseley, the 2480, that was one that did that. And of course, when they start shaling, of course, they start chewing out the crank journals. Now, I was appalled because I sold that to a really lovely retired couple and they had to get the engine rebuilt. And the bearings looked absolutely Mickey Mouse in it. So I was in the wrong there. In saying that, though, I've never seen that happen with a Japanese engine. I took the bearings out of this. They looked great. I've never seen it in an American engine, but I have seen it in English ones, B-series 4-cylinders and 6-cylinder ones, in the Austin freeways and Wolseley 2480s, that sort of stuff. So just never do that. It's a consumable. If you're going to buy new gaskets, buy new bearings and rings. That's just all there is to it. The other thing to note with that sort of thing, of course, if you do stick a head on or get your head done, a lot of machine work can exacerbate problems with existing parts. So, for example, if you get your head resurfaced, more compression can put more pressure on your rings, particularly if there's wear between your lands and your rings as well. And as I said with the bearings, the white metal can start to delaminate and chew things out. Well, I haven't got anything the same size here, so we're just going to go with the old stuff because we can and we will. Right, so you've got 1 and 4 on top dead center. You can verify that on this side. Can you see my finger? Down there on the stator plate. The ignition, and it'll tell you, it'll say 1.4T, which is top dead center. I don't want it at top dead center. I'm just going to take it a little bit off, just so that I can wipe around there and no oil sitting on top of the piston is going to run off onto the gasket surface. I don't really want to pass this up once I've stuck the head on, so I'm just going to lean that there, and that'll poke through the head and that'll fit through the head. So I guess now we're going to clean everything up, make it squeaky, so that we can put the gasket on and not have to worry about anything bad. I'm just going to use some wax and grease. You can use wax and grease remover, Repsol if you like, or thinner. Thinner's fine, thinner's good, but if you've got painted stuff, obviously you don't want to go there. I'm just going to make sure this is all clean. You can see little oily fingerprints, and I've had CRC and oil and all sorts of stuff. CRC is an Australian RP7 WD-40, same thing, it's just a penetrating oil in a rattle can. You can get it in bulk for workshops in a thing and just use it with a spritz bottle. But I want to make sure this is something which I can eat off before we stick the gasket down. There's a little residue. I'll give it a going over. You can see that's already come off it. So you don't need to watch me do this. Just listen to what I'm saying, I guess. And if you like my children, don't even listen to what I'm saying. Locators. There's 8 of them. 2, 4, 6, 8. Have a broad O-ring on them. I'm not lubricating these because I don't want the chance of contaminating the head gasket. Now they fit into there obviously and they'll sit down, and what the head will do is the head will push that down to the desired, I think they'll just bottom out anyway, because there's no what do you call it, just touch that, there's no rebate in the head or drilling in the head that's going to fit that steel inner. So we're just going to put those in and they'll slide on, no worries, it's not a problem. We're just going to make sure we don't forget to put them in. And the head gasket is designed to go around these things, so these will seal up where oil comes up. Make sure if you do the screwdriver thing like that, that it does fit through the head, because if you torque this down and go to get that out, you're going to be in strife. So before we bolt it down, I'm just going to pull that up and just make double sure. So the head gasket's a graphite type, it's weak there and there, it's in a bag. Oh gosh. Right, now it looks like it goes this way. And that's fine, but straight off the bat you see I'm hitting there, that's offset, that center hole where the cam chain comes through is hitting it. Now it doesn't say top or anything on it, so even if it goes straight on, not a bad idea just to make double sure by flicking it over and trying it the other way. Don't like that, look at this, got it on the dowels. Well, it'll squash down. I don't like that. It looks like it's stretched a bit. What I wanted to see though is where these Viton seals go. They should sit in that rebate, and what I want to do, yeah, they are the right one. They're 11 by 2.5 millimeter. So go for broke and stick this mofo on. I can't really see terribly well. Yeah, come on, son of a gun. Where are the holes? Now, there she is. Ow, I punched that. Ow. That felt like crap. Right, so, let me start putting nuts and washers and stuff on. What do you think? Oh dear. You can slide the washers down a screwdriver shank. Or you can just stick it on your finger and put your finger in. But basically all we're doing is sticking nuts on, and we're going to, whoops, zip him up. The nuts are punched, or sorry, the washers are punched. They're flat at one side, round at the top. So we'll just go down. I might actually, just a moment, I'll get a bit of oil. Right, good thing to do is to prime your little oil can. I'm just going to put a dot on each of the tops to run down the thread. I don't want this running down into the thing and contaminating the head gasket. Like that one probably will. Just to make it now sort of easier for the threads to run down. And AIP do this with their fastener kits for cars, because they can as well. It just gives you some way of getting an accurate torque reading, because you're not chafing stuff then. I'm just going to cinch these up a little bit. And it'll pull down. I just want to get it down, which it's coming down beautifully. Diagram of the torque thing, and it's just from the inside out. We do all the 8mm ones first, then we do the 6mm ones. There's, how many are there? 2, 4, 5 and 6. They're all 6mm ones. The torque is 14.5 to 18 foot-pound. I'm going to do it in 2 stages. I'm not doing it in 3. And we start here. That's on 10. 1, 2. Yeah, it's pretty common sense stuff. It's pretty bread and butter. 3, 4. Where's 5? Yeah, 5's over here. 5, you've got 6. We're just going from the inside out. Where's 7? 7's down here. Oh, that wasn't too good. 7, 8. Yeah, I'm just putting a very, very, very light amount of oil on there because the threads are really dry. I'm just going to stick it in with a magnet, flick that out the way, and just hand tighten it for now. Now, that's going to be good because we're not going to contaminate anything doing it that way. So here goes the second one. I've wiped the majority of the oil off. I've just got it sitting in there the way I want it. It just means this should all be really easy to get off. For those of you who are worried that screwdriver comes straight out, you must. If you're going to do this my way, I've never seen anyone do it this way. Normally they have bits of wire and they're hanging onto the head when they're putting it on, threading it through. That's a pain in the neck. I'm just not going down that road. The other thing it does is, of course, you risk contaminating the head gasket with oily fingerprints and that sort of thing. Not that that's going to kill the motor, but if you can keep it as clean as possible, straight off the bat, you're doing better. So where's this sucker go? Alright, so these ones here are torqued to 8 foot-pound, which you're going to do straight off the bat anyway. So what have we got that on? 10, 9, 8, so it's there. So I'm going to go full strength on these ones, and then I'm going to go around and do the 8mm nuts again. Hang on, which is which? 17. I think we go for that one first, don't we? Oops. So then, yeah, I'll do the 8mm ones, and then we'll come back and we'll redo these at 8 just to check they're alright. So I'm happy about doing this. Okay, so it's time to go through the box. I've bagged everything individually. Look, this number 3 exhaust. It's just been massively anal camshaft. So these are all dirty, as we had with the springs and all that sort of crap. So I'm just going to take it all out. With the stuff on. Oh, that was nice. I might just take the whole lot out. They're exhaust studs. Should put new ones in. There was one, I'll tell you now, I just flat out couldn't get out. Cam box. But I've marked which one it is. So that's more of this. What the hell is that? That's another cam box. This is cam bearings. So yeah, taking everything out, we'll fit it all in. There's bags and bags of stuff in here. It's amazing. That's a little trinket tray. I don't know why that's there. Amazing what fits into an engine. I'll tell you now. Right, cam boxes. Now I was massively anal when I took this off. 3 facing front, 4. Where's that one? 1, 2. The thing is, these only go in sort of one way because the oil comes in here. It's blocked off there and squirts up in your cam journals here and here, and also across your lobes there. So it's reasonably easy to see how they go. That being said, I'm not sure. This says 4 on this side, so I'm assuming that's on number 4's side, and the other one's just common sense, so they sort of fit like that. A couple of things. There's these plugs here. We're using the old ones there, and we're going to seal them up with Honda Bond. Hardware there. Bolts, of course. 4 bolts, studs, bunch of nuts. And these little guys here. Some new O-rings, there's 4 of them. And these jets, most important, you don't forget those. They regulate the oil pressure up to the top end. The XL had 1 of these in the base underneath the barrel. We've got 2. Good idea. Did I mention running compressed air through there? Just check with these that you can put air in there and you can feel it coming out of all these, or just stick it down each one individually and see if you can feel it elsewhere. Same with these, where you can just pop them in your mouth and blow. Whatever you do, just don't say that on a first date. With these things here, it's probably better. I tried to put it in the rebate first. Probably better just to stick it on the plug itself, just run it around. It's perhaps a little bit tidier doing it that way. This stuff is stringy and messy, but it seals well. So I've just got to go around and do that. There's limited time with Honda Bond. I think I mentioned before, this stuff goes off super duper quick. I might just put a really light smear on the top of each one as well, because these are second-hand rubber parts. But at the end of the day, without these guys, if you don't seal them up, then oil's going to come out from under the cam box and sort of appear all around the place, because it just goes into the mid sort of section of the head. The other thing is oil leaks are a pain in the ass, and of course with CB750s you can't do a damn thing when the engine's in the bike. Who's worried about this? Is anyone thinking, oh, I hope it doesn't drop? The screwdriver handle is actually supported really well under there. We've got one here which goes nowhere. Then you've got these little suckers, these little oil jets, and they fit in there and they just push home. And each one of those has an O-ring on it too. Now you can put a Honda Bond in there, and I'm actually not going to, because I'm paranoid about blocking off the orifice. I just don't think it's worth doing. So I think from there we can stick these little guys on. They will cover everything up nicely. Just make sure those fucking O-rings are right. Yep, they fucking are. And this one here. Cool. Right, time for the bump stick. So what we want to do is get some assembly lube here. Don't know what I've done with it. Where is it? Come on. Oh, there it is. Alright, so these bolts here are wrong. They actually lock, well, they're the camshaft ones, but similar bolts lock down the rocker shafts. There's a sort of, they encroach on that sort of circular bit there. So I'm just going to pop a little spot of assembly lube in it. Whoops, not there, goes there. Which will spread out when we stick a cam in. I don't want to go too much because that Honda Bond's probably not cured yet. It's like chewy, this stuff, look at it. I'll just pop that there for now. And this guy goes in. Now the sprocket, you can see where the bolts have been, and you can see that area there where the flange goes. Already I've got it the wrong way, clever dick. So we're just going to go, how does this go? Something like that. kind of rotate the thing in. And so now I'm fraught with the task of sticking the guy in. So this is unpleasant. I don't like doing this because I don't like metal on metal. Does that maybe go through there? Get that over. I'm not touching lobes, I don't really care. That's when I'm resting. Come on, in you go. And let me just pop you down for a moment. Cool. And just stick it on like that. So that's cool. So now I can just sort of walk it around. But for the moment, what I want to do, that moves freely. We're going to check all of that. Cool bananas. Alright. Then we're going to stick these on. Now what I did wrong last time, that is number one there. So if I go one front, if I go 1F on that, and then that cap went there. But they're punched anyway, with a number that corresponds. So I've got crap all over my engine. And perhaps it's assembly lube. This stuff sticks like poo on a blanket. Where's 4? That will have a number on it, which is SE, which corresponds with SE. You'll see there. I'm going to pop these on. And then there's just a nut that goes there, and of course I'll just snug these down for now. That can go there. They can be difficult to see, but just look, I numbered everything when I pulled the thing apart, without realising, because it was so dirty. I just didn't know some of the fact that Honda had gone to extraordinary lengths to make sure everything only went one way and could only be put one way. And again, we start from the centre and work our way out. You can see those little funnels there are full of assembly lube. That's sort of oozed out of there since I've put the thing in. It's time to manhandle the camera now. You can have a bit of a look in there. Lobes are still dry. We're not ready to put the rockers on yet. You can see these little guys, well, the outer two anyway, are full of assembly lube. I'm rotating the engine from here, from the alternator side. And of course we've got these, and if you look, hang on, let me turn that on. There it is there. So T is lined up with the casing, marking the casing, if you know what I mean. So you sort of, it's difficult to see anyway. It's in there, believe me. Now what I've got to do, I've got to rotate the camshaft. There's two marks there and there, and a cutout. So we've got to turn that around. So those marks are parallel, and the cutout's facing up. And then of course, walk the sprocket. You can see it's out by a few teeth there. So it's in that sort of hole there. It's got to be in that one there. So we can just sort of walk the sprocket around to get to that point. Alright, so what we've got to do is we've got to get around this way. I'm going to take it off there and just walk the chain. It's common sense stuff. This is all bread and butter stuff. But no, I've just gone the other way. But if you get it wrong, well, you can't afford to get it wrong. These things run on a shoestring clearance. So it's going to keep going. And we're just going to rotate after this, 360 degrees. We're a tooth out there. Let's see if I can move the camera for a sec. Can you see where my thumb is there? I don't know if you can see in there, but we're a tooth out. I'm just going to bring around one more, and hopefully, with any luck, I can do it. I'm cuddling the camera at the moment. I can't really see what I'm doing. There we go. That should be right on the freaking money right there. Beautiful. Alright, so what that means is this. I'm going to stuff rags down here. If I drop those bolts in there, I am screwed because I've got no way of getting them out. So we'll stuff rags in here. Put these in. These tighten up something like 15 foot-pound. Now once that's done, we're going to do a full 360 rotation. Do 720 degrees actually. We'll go around twice just to make sure all these lines still line up the way they're meant to. For this gig, I've just cleaned these bolts up and I've got Loctite on it. And I'm so screwed if I drop them in, so I'm not going to take that chance. Can you imagine how much you'd be spewing if you had to pull it all apart again? Because you can't fish down there with a magnet, because what will happen is it hits that radius on the bottom of the case. You can't see it from here. It goes sort of around like that, so it's going to roll back. And you've got no chance of getting it. Huge pain in the backside. Enough to make a guy cry. Swing him around to the other side. And if you look there, I can't tell what the camera can see. See those two lines are level with the cap, and that cutout is facing toward the top. And of course, T lines up down there for 1 and 4. So we know this is time right, so we can stick the rocker shafts in now. Right, so we're at the tail end of doing our rockers. You can see they're all loose because fitting them tight is a pain. We've got to get these cam lobes on the as much of a base circle as we can to put the shafts in. And so I'm not terribly worried about the clearances or anything yet. I'm just going to move that over just a bit like that. Here we go for lube. Might put a bit more lube on, just on there. We don't want this thing starving, which it won't anyway, because there's so much bloody assembly lube. Although all the stuff on the bearings would have dripped out because it was a year ago. Right, rocker shaft. You can see there's a bit of wear there, but it's within tolerance. They mic up well. This one's not so obvious, but these holes on one side is flat like that, on the other side is chamfered, and it's got a slotted part at the end which is designed to go in first, or designed to be vertical so you can rotate it to line those things up. That is number 4, so that's going to go in first. I'm going to pop that in, and straight off the bat you'll feel it get stiff, and what we need to do to alleviate that is to back it off, because it's obviously not completely on the base circle of the camshaft. And the moment you back that off, this thing's going to become loose. So we go in again to number 3. We get our number 3 rocker, stick it on, and again we're tight, so we're going to back that off, and you'll find it flies in beautifully like that. Now these 5mm threads, these two here, I'm not sure of the torque sequence. I'll mention it in a moment. Hang on a sec, where's my screw stick? Here we go. And just before I do anything else, I'm going to find out what the torque is for those things. I want them torqued up properly. Just because I do. I can tighten them up, but these things, you're just better doing everything by the book, you know what I mean? Okay. The next thing we've got to fight is all that assembly lube dripping all over our nice looking clean donk. Right, I'm just going to go away and find out what those torque settings are. I need to know. Time for a break. Time for a Kit Kat if you're from Australia. That was an old advertising slogan, I guess. Right, so I'm really quite happy with how this is going. Nearly ready for an all pressure test. I've only got this bolt, which is sort of all mangy at the top, which I'm going to use for now. I've ordered another one ex-US, so that'll be here in about a fortnight. But for the all pressure test and running the engine on the ground for whatever time it takes, this will suffice, and then I'll give it an oil filter change after that, just to get rid of some of that assembly lube and stuff like that that's going through the engine, or that will be going through the engine. I've also ordered rear shockers, the old shrouded type, and the swing arm bushers. The swing arm bushers are bronze ones from Germany, and the shocker, lower shocker mount bushers, and the all balls headstock bearing set. So there's a few parts coming, some of which we'll get here this week. The oil filters and that sort of thing will. The other thing is putting the engine in. I was going to make a, what do you call it, a jig to hold this sideways and lower the frame on. Dave's going to come and give me a hand. Dave's the owner of the XL that we did, that we're still not finished yet. And we might just manhandle it in on the ground. He bought a large motorcycle stand, a big ramp that sort of comes right up, and it came with a small jack which takes it about 500 off the ground, or 400 mil off the ground, or something like that. I might just use that to start with until it's got wheels on. I don't know, we'll just see. So we'll do the valve clearances in a minute, and then I'll store it. I'll shoot a bit of a, what do you call it, WD-40 or CRC just in here in the exhaust, because it's winter at the moment, it's a bit damp and stuff rags in. and that'll just keep it nice and rust free. So there's still lots of the like the rocker cover or valve cover and the alternator cover and that sort of thing that we have to clean up. Pardon me, we'll test the starter. If it squawks or carries on, it'll be bearings or commutator, and we can pull it apart then if we need to. I'm not going to pull it apart unless we need to. A lot of old generators and starter motors and this sort of things, they have quite a bloody birds. They have quite a substantial commutator, and if they are worn, you can stick them in a lathe, the whole rotor in a lathe. You can take a few thousandths off the commutator and sort of really smooth them out. But a lot of the newer stuff doesn't have that substantial thickness of copper on the commutator, so I don't know about those. I don't know what it's like. I think it's going to be fine. It certainly sounded fine when we tried to start the bike before we pulled it apart. But I think now, enough chatting, I think we'll get back into it. Right, well, a couple of finishing touches for this video, because I've been talking for too long anyway. We have to do the valve clearances, and we basically turn it to top dead center where number one's rocking. Well, they're all rocking. Basically what that lets us do is do number one, number two exhaust, number three inlet, turn it around 360, and then do the rest. So it's a pretty easy process. So we've got 2 thou on the intake, 3 on the exhaust. And you can see I always take the leaves out because they're easier. So we're just going to, just a bit of drag there, whack a spanner on, nip him up, and there we go, good as gold. So we'll just go around and do that for the rest of them, and we're good. So they're very fine clearances. I'm just going to whiz it around 360 again. And I'm just keeping an eye down here. And see the piston right there. So let's go around and check them again. We've got 3 for the exhaust. Pretty good. 2 for the intake. This one, number 2. That one I might take up a tiny bit more, eh? Nope, too tight. It's only a tiny bit. Sometimes it will. Just require the finest bit of finessing. And number 3, don't forget number 1 is here on your left. So it's sort of about face. And that's good as gold. I'm really happy with that. So we'll flick him around and just check the others and we're good, we're done. I've always done valve clearances hot, but this is a good baseline. Yeah, I reckon we're good now. Alright then. So, what I've got now is to stick this whole mechanism of ugliness on the top to keep the crap out. I've got to do all that. It's my least favourite job. Now, the other thing that's worth mentioning is the oil filter. Now, before we do an oil pressure test, oh, actually, I meant to mention, there's a design flaw with this. I need to, there's a bit of 10mm pine just to sit under there because it's off the ground. It's only supported by a screw this side. That's why I've got the screwdrivers there. It's not sagging, but how much would it suck if this came off? This is masking tape, and see it leaves a residue. Just got to clean all that off before we can put the filter on. And give it a good clean with some prep salt because that's been there since I put the cases together about 9 or 10 months ago. Right, so I've got some panel wipe, prep salt, whatever you want to call it. I'm just going to get rid of any of that grunge from the masking tape which is sitting down here. Now, everyone will tell you, you must fill an oil filter on a new engine, which I'm not going to do. And the reason I'm not going to do it is because of the angle of it and the fact that it's just going to make a mess. Having said that, I don't want it to be cranking over forever in the day, waiting for this thing to fill. Hang on a sec. The way I'm going to do it, which is bad, is I'm going to get this second-hand oil filter seal, because my new ones haven't arrived. I've ordered them, but they're not here. I'm going to pop that in there. Followed by this bolt, which is rusty, which has had rattle can silver on it. I've ordered one of them from the States, but of course that's going to take a little while to get here too. So that is going to go in like this. Yes. Then we're going to get a new oil filter. This is the existing one I had, so I don't like using second-hand oil filters. We're not doing that by any stretch. We're going to chuck that in there. No, we're not. We're going to put the spring in. My washer, which I made, which fits in there, that'll stop the spring digging in. And the oil filter, which is going to twist over that spigot. And the reason I'm doing it this way, maybe you should put a bit of oil around there, hey? And I'm going to fill the engine through the oil pressure switch hole. Not fill it so much, there's a little tab that goes in there. Not fill it, but I'm going to put about a pint of oil in there with a syringe. And what that'll do is it's going to flood that main gallery, and straight away it's going to overflow down, it runs sort of down here, and then where that plug is, down into the oil filter. So it'll fill it that way. You will get an airlock, or we will get an airlock, in the 8 inches or so between here from the oil pump at the bottom. So there will be an airlock there, but there's oil there, and it'll purge a lot quicker doing it this way. So, on that note, we're going to say goodbye. I think I've done enough now. So the next chapter, we're going to clean that up, clean that one up, put new gaskets on. That's all done, dusted, and we can do an oil pressure test. So look, I hope you've enjoyed this. Take care of yourselves, enjoy classic, and I'll see you around.